Good evening. Thanks very much for coming back to my channel. This is Inspirational Invitational, a series where I get other running people onto the channel and to get them to talk about their running journeys and bring to you content that I can't bring because I haven't always done the stuff that they've done. And this week, I've got James Dunn from the Morning Coffee Run. We're not doing a morning coffee run today. We're having an evening coffee chat. So welcome to the channel, James.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Now, thanks for coming on. And I was hoping, if you wouldn't mind, just for the first couple of minutes, any of my viewers who don't know you and want to get to know you a bit, just talk about like how you got into running and your running background and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Well, it all started about May time 2015. I was 20 stone, felt horrific with life, and I was like, middle of the night, got up, put on a pair of really old, battered pair of shoes and went for a run. And it felt like something changed in an instant. And from there, it kind of snowballed quite quickly. I ended up running 2 halves in that first year. And I thought, oh, yes, it's quite good. And I hadn't trained much before the first half. But as soon as I finished that half, I said, yeah, this is what I'm meant to be doing. So the following year, I ended up running 4 marathons, 6 half marathons, and 1,000 miles. And in that year, I ended up losing 5 stone of weight. And since then, it's just been a spiral of more and more races and more challenges. So I've just come off the back of a few races this year with Paris Marathon and London Marathon. And yeah, so total of 13 marathons so far and building up to Marathon des Sables next year, which will be a whole nother ball game in terms of the challenges, but one I'm really looking forward to having a go at. So should be interesting anyway.
No, it definitely will be. And you know, if you don't mind me asking, like, how much weight have you lost in total since you started running?
So the amount of weight I lost was 5 stone in the first year, and took a break, gained a little bit of it again. So I think total I've lost about 5.5 stone. About that, pushing 6 if I'm trying hard enough, but there's definitely more to lose as I did a lot of upper body weight strength and training today, and it's quite evident that I still have a lot more weight to lose to make those exercises a bit easier. So yeah, still a bit more to go.
But you know, the progress you've made is amazing. And when you were, you know, 20 stone laying in bed feeling awful, could you have ever imagined that one day you would run a half marathon, let alone a marathon or the Marathon des Sables? No,
never. I mean, I ran a 10K about, it would be 10 years ago now, and I ran it in an hour. I think it was an hour and 20 or something. And I remember finishing that. I did no training. Finished that, and I said, "Why the hell do people run? This is not fun at all." And I just didn't run again. For a very long time. But I had lots of friends that were runners, and one of my best mates had run the London Marathon, and I remember him bringing the medal in. It was when we were 18. I remember him bringing this medal into school, and that little amulet that it became. I remember that day I was like, I really want to run a marathon, but I never thought it'd be a realistic goal until I lined up for London, and I still didn't believe it was a realistic goal until I got across the finish line. It's a feeling that you can't explain, you can only experience, if that makes sense. Finishing half is an incredible achievement. And I felt fantastic there, but just to step up and do the marathon was a phenomenal feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think everybody starts their running journey wherever they start, and these things seem impossible, don't they? And when you go out on that first run and it feels hard and everything, and you've only done a mile and you're in a mess, and you think, how am I going to do this? But it's all about slow baby steps, isn't it? And building it up.
Definitely. When I first went out for a run, I mean, the first run I ever did was 1 kilometer, and I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. How do people do marathons? And it's that changing targets that once you've hit one, you look at the next one, and once you've hit the next one, you just keep going and keep going, and you end up looking back and realizing how far you've come when you do that first 10K or you do that first park run and don't walk. There's always these steps in running, which is why I think I love it so much. Is there's always a progression. Every every time you hit a goal, there's another goal you could be doing, or every time you've completed a challenge, there's another challenge you could be doing. And the running community is such an awesome community that if you can't think of a challenge, somebody else will. About running is that there is always somebody pushing you on. It's incredible.
Yeah, and there's always people at, you know, different levels. So I think if you're thinking about starting running, or you're new in running, and you feel as though, you know, oh, there's all these people out there, they're much faster than me, and all these apprehensions and fears, there's always someone who's at your level, isn't there, who you can train with and improve with.
Yeah, definitely. And I had a talk recently, and it was with a guy who is my running coach, and he's done marathon Sables, he's done ultra marathons, he's won them as well. And I remember I looked at him and think, he's so far away from me. I could never be there. And then there was somebody who's just started doing Couch to 5K, and she looks at me and said, oh, well, I'll never be there. And there is always this thing in running that people think that what we're doing is so unobtainable, but it's really not. I mean, if you can put in the hours and enjoy it, I mean, I never thought I could run a marathon, let alone how many I've done now. It's that stepping stone game, and once you start getting each step across, it's amazing how far you can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the running community, so I see that we've got Claire Beard in the live chat. We've got John Zygan in there. So welcome. Thanks for joining the live chat. And John's already got a question for you. So he says, hi, James. Have you lost the weight just from running, or is it also a particular diet that you followed as well?
I'd like to say yes. I've kept a very strict diet of no carbs and no fat, but it's all running. I'm very, very bad at not holding myself back. I'll just go and I'll eat something. If I fancy, I'll eat it. And I'm sure I could have lost double the amount of weight if I'd been better at my diet. And there are times, especially when I know there's a race coming up, that I'm a lot better at obeying the rules of what you should be eating for runners. But as soon as that race is finished, and I haven't got one in a couple of weeks, I'll be in the bag of Doritos, and I'll be on the seafood diet. If I can seafood, I'll eat it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I get the same after a race. I'll eat anything in sight. It's just match, doesn't it? But yeah, so you talked about you've done several marathons. I know that you've done lots of different ones. Just give us a quick rundown of the marathons that you've done.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to forget one. I can guarantee it now. So I've done 3 Londons. I've done Paris, Rome, San Francisco, Copenhagen, Berlin, Edinburgh, Snowdonia, Queenstown, New Zealand. I always forget that one because it's miles away from everywhere else. Sure, I'm forgetting one. Athens.
Athens, wow. And that's a hell of a list. And I bet it's really difficult to say from that what's your favourite.
It's actually pretty easy. So I love London. I absolutely adore London. But for me, the Snowdonia Marathon, mainly because I run past my aunt and uncle, I run past my grandmother, and I run basically a place that I know so well, and it's a hard race. But I think the fact that it's so hard, it means that all the runners around you are so supportive. And I got to run it at the start with a guy called Mark, who I helped at the London Marathon a couple of months before. And it made it even more special. And I had such amazing support on that day as well. It was, it'd be hard. I'm doing it again this year, and I'll probably change my view when I do it this time, but I'm always measuring marathons off that one now.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think, so for me, I quite like the Great North Run because I've got family in the area, and it's a real highlight running past people isn't it? And having your sort of your own personal cheer squad out there definitely makes the race amazing. So that's a hell of a list of marathons, and you travelled the world, you've done some of these big city marathons, but that's not enough for you. You want to go to the Marathon des Sables. So tell us about how that came about and what's going on with that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a bit of a weird story. So I remember before I started running, I remember watching a documentary about it, and I remember saying, God, who's stupid enough to do that? I mean, you have to be a special kind of stupid to want to do that many miles in the desert, carrying your kit. And then I got into running, and the more time went past and the more I enjoyed the marathon and the training around the marathon, I thought, you know, it'd be quite fun to do an ultra. And one of my best friends, we wanted to do it. So we talked about it, and we got nearer and nearer to the application date. And I was still a bit on the fence. And then he had to pull out last minute because he'd got promoted in the army, and so his plans had changed. So I was sort of moving more towards the no. And as my blog name, Morning Coffee Run, shows, I'm obsessed with coffee. And weirdly, for no apparent reason, my local coffee shop got bought by a guy who came 21st in the Marathon des Sables in the year he competed in it. And he arrived 2 months before the application window for Marathon des Sables. And it felt like I just had to do it. So I applied, I've signed up, the deposit is paid for, I can't back out. But it's going to be pretty phenomenal challenge. Just to get my head around the miles is one thing, but all the kit you've got to have, all the strains and the stresses and the mental battles you're gonna have to go through. It's the more I read about it, the more I'm scared but excited. I think it's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe not everyone knows what the Marathon des Sables is, but it's often referred to as the MDS, isn't it? And it's a multi-day event. You've got sand and heat and desert, and you have to carry your kit bag, don't you? And you're not allowed to drop anything. I think they write your name and everything, don't they? And if like a bottle top's found and it's yours, you get time penalties. Is that right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, I've got a story of one of my friends who handed another competitor his water bottle because this person was struggling. The person who was struggling dropped the bottle, but he then got the time penalty because the name had been written down on this water bottle. So it is every little bit counts, and you read stories of people are cutting off the end of their toothbrushes and measuring every little calorie so they go right at the level. I won't be doing that because I'm not going there to win. I'm not going there to compete. My aim is just to complete it and to show that you can do it, that if you put in the time. So I'm going to go with, a lot of food, maybe a little whiskey. I'm going to try and enjoy my time in the desert with, carrying all your kit and all your water and everything else, and the 30 to 40 degree heat that you have to go through, and the 150 odd miles over a few days. It's pretty daunting.
I think you've come on to some really good race tactics there. Just say, somebody, I'm gasping, please let me have some water, chuck their stuff everywhere, and then you'll win on the time penalties.
That might be the way to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to do if I go there. That's it now. It's in there. No, that's brilliant. And it sounds like that's going to be an absolutely epic challenge. And, what are your biggest worries? I've heard stories of, sand in the shoes, blisters, people going on drips because they're getting too dehydrated. What are your biggest worries about it? And how are you going to try and overcome those?
Well, the sort of two worries I've got are the distance. So there's a long day, which is about 50 miles. And my way of doing this is I've got my first ever ultra, which is a 50 miler next month, to sort of see what the distance feels like. But my main worry is dehydration. Being a larger competitor means I'll sweat more because my body will exert more energy. And the water is rationed. So you have a certain amount of water. It doesn't matter what size you are, from, the wafer thin people that are going to be leading the pack to the back markers like myself. So my main worry is dehydration. And I'll be working through that with acclimatizing in heat chambers leading up to the race. I usually do it about 10 days before you leave. I'm hoping to maybe go out and experience running in some heat in the lead up. But I've got the running coach that has had all this experience, and so he kind of knows what I'm going to be experiencing. So I'm not going in completely, rose tinted glasses. I know what's coming, which is a good thing. I think it's no bad thing to be scared of what's coming up, because you can prepare and you put all your effort into preparing, which I'm hoping I'll be prepared when I get there.
Well, you've had a lot of practice running in the heat over this last couple of months with the London Marathon, and of course this weekend you just took part in Endure 24 as well. So how did that go?
Yeah, it's an event that I find very hard to convince people to do, because if you say it in paper, right, there's a 5 mile trail loop. It's quite technical. There's up and down. 4 hours, and you won't get much sleep. You know, constantly going, constantly running. And I did it last year with 2 friends, and this year they all came back, and plus a few more. And we were 7 of us in the end, and it was the most amazing experience. It's such a fun festival atmosphere, but you also have these amazing people who are out on my team supporting you and helping you get through it. I did quite limited miles because I've got a marathon this weekend, but there are some of my team that have gone beyond what they ever thought they were capable of in running, which is just, I mean, you can't beat that feeling of watching someone who you've invested all your energy and hopes in achieving these goals. And I didn't know many of them before, but now we're lifelong friends from just that 24 hours of looking after each other and driving ourselves on. And it's just a great place to chat running. As you and I will attest, we love to talk about running, and having an entire festival full of people who enjoy running as well. It's just so much fun. It is brilliant.
Yeah, it looked brilliant. A load of my running club were down there. I had to work this weekend and I couldn't get involved. But straight away, all my running club are on the Facebook chat. You know, right, let's get some teams together for next year. They're all like trying to book it already. And I'm straight on the bandwagon. I'm going to go because I've done a similar race, different one 3 times, but I haven't done Endure, and it just looks like so big and bold and exciting. So yeah, definitely hope to get there.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. And I genuinely can't recommend it more highly. It's just the fact that you can run, have a beer, have a pizza, and then run again, and nobody complains about that. It's a very good thing. Yeah,
it's fab. And yeah, I hope you're going to be there next year.
Yeah, 100%. Our team is a team of 7 or hopefully a team of 8 by next year. We'll be there, and we're even hoping for 2 teams, which will be amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, if we all end up going, let's talk about strategic camping near each other, and we'll have to try and get a bit of a party going on.
Definitely up for that.
No, good stuff. Well, we obviously met back at the National Running Show in January, when we were both shortlisted in the best blog category in the Running Awards. And we met that day, and then of course we met again when the awards happened, and that was a hell of a night. And obviously you took the gold award, mate, so congratulations, as I said to you before.
It was
how did that feel?
Cool. We've chatted about the fact that for both of us it was such a surprise. I think we do it because we love what we do. We love informing people about races and encouraging people to get into running. So we've both done it. We both got it on our screens here, but we didn't do it. We didn't do it for these. So the fact that we both did it was such an amazing. It was just such a wonderful night, because to see people like yourselves who work so hard for running getting rewarded, not just in our category but all the other categories as well. It was such an incredible night just to celebrate running as well. But yeah, I did not expect to win gold at all. I expected to have because the London Marathon Expo was that day. I expected to, collect my bib, have a nice drink and some catch up with some friends at the running awards, and then pooter off home. I did not expect to be carrying this ridiculously heavy medal, the trophy, back with me to Oxfordshire. It was, yeah. It still is a surprise. I still look at it every day and think, how did that happen? It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I mean, we discussed it on the night before the awards were announced. Neither of us thought that, we were going to win anything. And I remember they obviously announced me as the bronze winner, and then they announced the second place. And at that point, it was apparent that you didn't think at all that you'd won, because you started turning to me saying, "Oh, congratulations, well done." And it was almost like this first place was going to be, irrelevant to you now because it wasn't going to be you. And then they called out morning coffee run. It was Ben Smith, wasn't it? And he says the morning coffee run, and you were just you could tell it was genuine shock and just dumbstruck. And then you were off and you went and it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you came third was kind of, for me, that was the highlight of my night. I was like, this is incredible, because we were sat next to each other and it was so good to share that. And I was so, swept up by the fact that we were celebrating your bronze that I didn't expect it. And to hear Ben Smith give me the award as well was pretty special, because when I moved into more interviewee stuff in my blog, in a section called Running With, he was the first person I approached, and he said yes straight away. And we did the interview. So his interview kind of marked the like step up in blogging for me. So it was, it was very, very special that night. And it was a shame the London Marathon was that weekend, because we were all on the lemonade. But it was a lot of fun. It was just for everyone as well, and the freebies that were pretty incredible.
Yeah, we got a few good bits and bobs in the goodie bag, didn't we? So yeah, it was really good night. And yeah, I mean, obviously that award was phenomenal. And like you say, Ben Smith, he's such an inspirational guy. And just talking to him, you come away from a conversation with him feeling like pumped and ready to go and do something awesome, don't you? So yeah, what a great guy to give out the award. And I'm actually going to be running at Ben's event in August. It's the 401 Festival of Running, where it's a 2-day event. On day one, you do a half and a 5K. You have a music festival at night. And then on day 2, you do a 10K and then a 6.1K, which rounds the weekend up to marathon distance. And you get 1 medal per race. And then you get this big bonus one if you manage all 4. So it's going to be a really good weekend. And all of that money will go to the 401 Foundation, which is Ben's charity. So yeah, if anyone else is looking for an August event, come down there and join me.
Yeah, I had looked at it as well. It looks like it's going to be phenomenal. Sadly, I'm at a different music festival, but it's the fact that Ben has gone on from doing the 401 marathons, the 401 days, and actually just kept going with it is so inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say he's a doer, isn't he? He goes and does things. He just thinks about them and he makes them happen. And I talk to him and I think, yeah, I'm gonna be a bit more like that. I want to get things done, and I don't want to just have ideas that never come to fruition. You just got to crack on with it, haven't you? So yeah, he's a great guy to talk to. Right, so what have we covered? We've covered MDS, we've covered Endure. So talk to me about one of your marathons, just one of your international marathons. I don't think anyone spoke about any of the ones you said, so pick, any one.
I think if the visually spectacle was the Queensland Marathon in New Zealand. I'd flown out there because one of my best mates had just moved to New Zealand, and it was my 30th birthday. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something a bit crazy. I'll go to New Zealand for a couple of weeks. So we travelled around, and we ended up down in Queenstown rather, to run the marathon. And if anyone's watched Lord of the Rings, it's like running a marathon in Lord of the Rings. It was phenomenally beautiful, phenomenally hot as well, but it was absolutely stunning. I mean, there are a lot of races I really enjoyed, like the San Francisco run. I was an ambassador for, and running along the Golden Gate Bridge. Sadly, it was really foggy, but it made it just so much more epic. And you run quite early in the morning across the Golden Gate Bridges. That was pretty special. I mean, there are a lot. Like whenever I think of the marathons, I always think of little snapshots of races. So the Rome Marathon was the heavy torrential rain that we got literally at the start of the race. They said ready, go, and then a massive clap of thunder came down and it hammered it down. My earphones broke. I had to wear a poncho. It felt like I had trench foot by the end. It was pretty horrific. But I mean, every marathon I really enjoyed. I mean, some of them have been harder than most. The Athens Marathon, especially. I was coming off a stress fracture, hadn't trained, gone back to my eating again. And that race is just relentless. You just keep going down a road because you're going from Marathon to Athens. And it's an absolute killer. It was a great race, but it is not what I want to go back to, just for the mental strain that I went through that day. It was horrific.
Okay, so guys, you've all been listening to James, and you've listened to the races that he's done and everything. But the live chat's a bit quiet tonight, actually. So if anyone's got any questions, get them in now, because we've only got about 5 more minutes of talking before we have to knock this one on the head. So yeah, if you've got anything for James, then get it in the live chat now. Yeah, so obviously you've won the award for the best blog, and your blog is the Morning Coffee Run. What I've done is I've put all the links to your social channels below this video in the description. So your website, your Instagram, your Twitter, and everything. So if anybody wants to click on those to learn more about James or read his blogs, because they're all amazing, that's all there for you. And yeah, what have you got coming up on the blog apart from MDS? What else have you got coming up?
So I've literally started doing product reviews. So I did my first shoe review of the Brooks Glycerin, which is a shoe I've run in basically ever since I started running. But I'm going to be writing about Endure 24 and my first ever trail marathon, which is this weekend. And I want to write a bit about what challenge means to people and how it changes, which is it's taken quite a while to write down. I did talk about it recently, and I'm quite excited to see how people have viewed what a challenge was to them a year ago and what it means to them now. Because it's something that certainly struck me, was how much my idea of a challenge had changed. But I'm constantly coming up with ideas. I have a little whiteboard in my office that is just scribbled with ideas that I keep coming up with for blogs. It's just sitting down and making sure I've got the time to get them written down.
Yeah, and obviously, if you come up with an idea, you wanna make a good blog of it, don't you? You don't just want to like do a quick one and publish it. You want it to be right, don't you? And I can tell that with all of your blogs, they're really well worded, and you've put a lot of thought into what you're saying.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, everybody, if you want to check out the Morning Coffee Run, the links are below. There's no more questions in the live chat, James. So we'll wrap it up there. And as always, if you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel for more running content. If you use the bell notification next to the subscribe button, that means you get notified when I go live on one of these videos. Because I can't do a regular slot every week because I'm a shift worker. So you'll just get a notification when that happens. It's usually around this time, but it's maybe a different day slightly. And yeah, if you want to subscribe, then hit that subscribe button. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.